Yo, Patrick, how you doing, bud?
Not too bad at all. So we're doing a nice video about Rupert Lowe. He seems to be all over the internet at the moment, all over Twitter, with his big announcement of his new political party in the UK. So I said as I was saying to you, we might as well do a video on him.
Well, I think it's Restore Britain. He's decided to get out of football and get into politics for real. So,
but he's actually been in politics for quite a while. You'll see this in the intro as well. He's actually a really well-seasoned politician in his own right. He's a bit well-seasoned businessman as well in his own right. So it looks like himself and Nigel had a bit of a falling out, is the word you could say.
Ooh, did they break up real bad? Is that what happened?
Yeah. It doesn't look like they broke up on good terms.
Not an amicable experience, huh? All right.
No,
we're going to go ahead and look at Samara Gill from Talk TV, and she's going to discuss his origins and what it looks like for 68-year-old Rupert Lowe. And then we're going to switch over to Andrew Gold on heretics for some portions of an interview he did fairly recently, so we can get a feel for the guy and see what it looks like from Ireland's perspective as well as the U.S. So
yes,
we will let Samara book. Here we go.
Let's discuss what the hell is going on with Reform versus Restore.
You know, people think, oh, Farage has done it. We'll just set a party up. It'll be marvellous.
Now, yesterday, Nigel Farage held a really big rally to announce his new shadow cabinet for reform, this sparkly new thing that would lead a future government into success.
So that would be all his front benchers that he would use in ministerial positions should he get the premiership?
Should he get elected? Yeah. So if he got elected as Prime Minister, this would be his front-running cabinet, you could say, his front-facing cabinet. This is a big announcement. Rupert Lowe, by the way, also announced his party at the same time. Just bear that in mind. But to take it small, it looks like he wanted to take a bit of take a bit of a shot at his old friend. Is that the word I could use? Trying to find. I
didn't see your boy Connor Tomlinson up on the dais though, so I don't know. He's supposed to be a part of that whole thing. He's doing some writing on it.
He's more kind of like he's more like he handles a lot of the media side of that crowd.
So he's not going to attempt to go for an MP position or be a backbencher or anything like that.
I don't know. There's been no rumblings about it. I think he's perfectly happy just being the back end support is the best way to put it.
Connor Tomlinson on the back end support. Sounds perfect. Sounds like a good place for Connor. All right, here we go.
But this would have been another big moment for them if it hadn't been somewhat overshadowed by one Mr. Rupert Lowe. Now, Rupert Lowe interestingly chose Friday the 13th to establish and launch his political party, Restore Britain. And
well, that was Rupert Lowe there on the farm, right? The farm that he owns? Okay.
Yeah, he owns a farm. He's a getaway and all this kind of thing he was saying.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. It looks really nice. Really, really beautiful part of England.
I like the wellies he was wearing, though. That was pretty good. I like that. The boot selection was on point.
Yes.
While many have called ReformUK the anti-establishment party that has been a total thorn in the side of the Tory sides for years. Let's start with a little background on the man causing this drama. Who is Rupert Lowe? Because apparently only 8% of the British public are aware of who he is. Now, people on Twitter would beg to differ because he has a massive online social presence, nearing 1 million followers. So he's got great influence in the social.
Right, if those 1 million followers are from the UK at 60 million, that is a little less than 10%, right?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you could have 1 million followers online, but they could be 1 million followers from all over the world.
Or bots, right?
Or bots. But when it comes to the normal British public, when as she was saying, 8% know who he is. So he has to kind of get in. I can see him doing the whole circuit now in the next couple of weeks and months.
Oh, for sure, for sure. He'll hit all
do a lot of interviews, getting his face out there, radio, TV, you name it, he'll be doing it the next couple of weeks and months.
He was on Heretics, I'm pretty sure, but that was recently, but within the last couple of months, I think, ish.
Yeah.
Time frame.
So. Yeah, just second his face more into the British public, especially the young British public, who are really the backbone of reform at the moment.
Right. Well, and a lot of it, I think, has to do with they're going to be the ones that are voting in the election, and if he can get them to the polls, then he'll do a hell of a lot better. Right, but he's made all kinds of wild promises about what it is he's going to do and how it is he's going to do it, and it's going to be something that feels good to the young British man who can't get a home, and he sees other people getting resources that have been earmarked for British citizens going to not British citizens. So I think he can rile him up at the very least. And if he can deliver on his promises, even half, like that'll be better than most politicians, better than 50%.
Well,
right?
Yeah, but the key for him is to get that message out there into the normal man on the street. So he has to start doing the rounds, as they would say.
Right. So
he start going out and pounding the the circuit.
Yeah. So, but because we are into the political scene for the G20s, we see this. You don't think your basic British citizens? Maybe we got to get old John back on from London and see what he's got to say about it. We'll probably hit him.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Actually, we have to arrange that next couple of weeks. Actually, that'd be very interesting.
That was a really good interview, like that, and that episode did pretty good. But people were very unhappy with us. We received a lot of hate mail for it, and that's fine. Like at least people are talking about it. Even if you tell me some wild things, at least you're thinking about it, right? So
yeah, as I say, we're here to make a conversation. We might come across sometimes as being a bit biased either side, but we're still here to have a conversation, as I say.
Right, well, everybody's got their perspective, right? Doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. It's just based on what we've learned in our life. This seems like a better thing from our worldview as being a good or bad answer. So, all right, let's let her finish cooking.
Space. Lowe is a 68-year-old former businessman. He spent his pre-political career largely working in the City of London for a variety of banks and financial institutions. That was sort of his upbringing. He was running and owning his own businesses in his mid-30s across engineering, energy, data, and retirement homes.
Did he also own the Southampton Football Club for a while too?
Yeah, he did. He's actually, as I say, he's well rounded when it comes to business, actually, in fairness to him. Really. He's got a good head on his shoulders. I have to say that much about him.
Is he still part of the football club, or is he out of that, or do we know?
No, he stepped down when they entered administration.
Okay.
But he was there for a good 10 plus years, actually.
How does Southampton do? We'll look that up. We'll find out how Southampton did.
I'm actually looking at it right now. Southampton is, they're in the Premier. They're relegated.
Oh,
yeah.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, I find any Southampton fans out there, but yeah, your team really does not do well.
Oh wow, mean. All right, here we go.
Well.
And he even dabbled in a bit of football here and there. But Lowe also has links to politics. He was a member of the Conservative Party until 1993, but then resigned due to his Eurosceptic views. And 4 years later, he stood in the 1997 election as a referendum party candidate. Lowe didn't win that time around, though. And after the 2016 EU referendum, he actually returned to politics in 2019, and he won a seat as an MEP in the European Parliament on behalf of the Brexit Party. Funny that. The Brexit Party was the predecessor to ReformUK. Now, that's clearly where he met.
And that was Nigel Farage's push, right? The Brexit thing?
Yeah.
All right.
Like it was Nigel Farage. No, that was the main spokesperson for Brexit, the Brexit movement that time.
And Rupert Lowe was his man while that was going down.
But yeah, he was part of it. There was a lot of other members there as well, but he was the main head, you could say, the main spokesperson.
Right.
And as you know, Brexit happened, got voted through. They've left the EU since, and now he's throwing his hat in the ring again. He will become PM. And I think Nigel. I'd be interested to see if Nigel will get enough votes to become Prime Minister someday. But with Rupert Lowe now throwing his hat in the ring, there's a danger of that vote being split down the centre. A big danger there.
So they're going to have to consolidate some kind of way, right? Maybe beforehand.
Might be interesting.
I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe afterwards they sit down, have a grown-up conversation.
Oh,
shake hands.
Oh,
come together as one.
The talk after the breakup. Yeah.
That's always an awkward conversation.
Let's grab a pint and talk about it. It should be all right.
Yeah. And I said Nigel be the man for the pints. I don't know about poor old Rupert. Yeah, he strikes me as more of a brandy or Scotch man.
Possible. Well, he's part of a couple of exclusive clubs out there in London, I hear. So he'll probably be able to find that should he want it. So
yes.
Here we go.
Nigel. So he was in the orbit of Nigel Farage for at least 5 years before the 2024 general election. He even stood as a candidate in a by-election in February 2024, but he lost to Labour at that point. However,
What's a by-election? Is that if somebody loses their seat and they need to put somebody up to run?
It's another word for local election, local by-election.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, it's a local election. Yeah.
Forward to July of that year, the general election, where Keir Starmer and Labour, they finally ended that 14 years of Conservative Party rule. Though we all know that some of that can be attributed to the rise of Reform and why there was a big vote split on the right of the electorate, with Reform picking up millions of votes and establishing itself with 4 MPs at the time. Despite the split votes, ReformUK had won 4 seats that night. Party leader Nigel Farage won the Clacton electorate. We had Richard Tice, who won Boston and Skegness. Then we had Lee Anderson, who won Ashfield, and Rupert Lowe, who won Great Yarmouth. Now, that's nearly 27 years for Rupert after he first tried to enter Parliament. So this was a very long time coming for him. Now, things were all fine.
Right. So that is functionally a introduction to Rupert Lowe. We're going to switch over to Andrew Gold, but that's 27 years of going through processes of politics. And I think a lot of the interference there was he's busy running businesses and these kinds of things. So he's real busy with that, and the politics didn't seem quite as important until now. He's like, I have just had enough of whatever this is, and I'm going to put my foot in here and try and make some changes that are real changes that the people can trust.
It is interesting to see him throwing his hat in the ring. Like, it's a big endeavor. It's a big step up from being part of a party to making and leading your own party. It's a big step up. It's a big endeavor. Yes, very, very big. Very big. Very big undertaking.
All right. We will now switch over to Andrew Gold's interview.
So you've had that, and at the same time, an influx of millions of people from different kinds of cultures that don't really work with our own.
Well, I think, as I've said in the past, until really, I treat John Major as an irrelevance. But until 1992, really, we had a pretty stable society, and Maggie left the country in rude health, financially and I think structurally and in terms of self-belief. From then, really, the architects of our downfall are Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, Peter Mandelson, and Alistair Campbell.
All right, so tell me about these folks. What do we know about?
So they're all former prime ministers of the UK, obviously.
Okay.
And I think I do agree with him in a lot of ways that they were good in their own. Well, I wouldn't say they were good, and they weren't bad. They were more kind of mediocre at best. The best way I could describe some of them.
But why is he saying the current instability is based on their ineffectual nature as prime minister? Like, if he believes
the problem with those prime ministers, a lot of them, is they seem to kind of stumble that time from one crisis to another crisis with very bad forward thinking, very wishy-washy policies. There was no structure put in place to improve the economy, improved a lot. Like, as the rest of the world was moving forward, say, for instance, with a knowledge economy base more in the Western world. Like, say, take my own country, for instance, in Ireland, we heavily invested in IT infrastructure, wine and dine, high-tech companies come over like Google, Meta, and so on. Where, at the same time, the UK were trying to recapture their industrial might. But the world had started moving on from there. Because a lot of the heavy industry that the UK was trying to keep propped up and keep going was already being done abroad.
Right. So it should have been left to those to create an industrial base and then go for something that is more in keeping with modernity. So they kind of missed.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, they missed. I wouldn't say they tried stumbling into. They kind of relate to the game, you could say, in a lot of ways. Like, the problem is that the British population are really highly educated. They're really hard workers, but their leaders in the last couple of decades don't seem to have a plan how to fix the economy.
Right.
They
So
just
they've done
don't.
their people a disservice functionally. They're not
Yes.
their plans.
Even
Do you think it's part and parcel of a bureaucracy that's just gotten out of control?
no.
Because they were talking about that before, where although there's elected officials, those who work in the bureaucracy, and it's the same kind of way in the United States, the
Mm.
people in the bureaucracy are there through each cycle, Labor, Tory in the United States, Republican, Democrat. The people who are messing with policy are not in elected positions, and they're just there
I
in perpetuity.
I'd be honest. I wouldn't put it all on the civil service over there. I wouldn't put it all the blame there. I put some of it there, without a shadow of a doubt. They could have advised a lot of these leaders differently. But I do blame an awful lot of politicians over there where they were trying to keep the steel industry alive. That's one example I'm trying to think of there in their economy, where realistically steel is cheaper, can be manufactured way cheaper abroad. That's just, they were keep pumping and they kept trying to keep their dying industries alive. Where, say, the likes of Ireland and, say, a lot of the other G20 countries, a lot of where they kind of moved their manufacturing abroad because it is cheaper to manufacture abroad, and try to concentrate on what they were good at, to IT infrastructure, to electronics, high-tech industries, where you have a better rate of return. But the UK were always struggling of what are we going to do now that we don't have shipbuilding anymore, for instance. What are we going to do now that we don't have coal mining? What are we going to do now? They never answered those questions. And the politicians, as he said, in the last couple of decades, especially our prime ministers, just didn't have a clue how to fix the economy. They kind of stumbled around the place.
Right.
And ever since now, it's glaringly a big problem now, even after Brexit, is they're still stumbling around the place trying to figure out how to fix their economy.
But at the same time, bringing in tons and tons of migrants, like we talked about
Yes,
before.
exactly. They're compounding
millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, they're compounding a bad problem. Yeah, they're compounding a bad problem. The problem is their budget is vastly overinflated at the moment.
Right.
They're running it at a massive deficit, no matter how much their prime ministers and their finance ministers try to put a ribbon on it. All you have to do is open up Bloomberg any day, and you could see the international bond market.
Well, is it part of the problem, like France's problem with the massive pension issues they have, or do they have different kinds of pieces moving around in there that are causing the issue?
I would say yes and no. Are they similar problems to France? In a lot of ways, yes. Deindustrialization is affecting a lot of these countries.
Right. Well, Germany
and
France and the UK for sure are heavily affected. And like you're saying, if they offshored that kind of manufacturing, then they could concentrate on something that would actually help their economy.
No, France and Germany looks like they have a plan put in place. I was watching your news there recently. Now that there's more defense spending in Europe, and a lot of that defense spending is going to the likes of German arms manufacturers and French manufacturers, because they want to keep a lot of it in-house.
Right.
That's to say, while Europe is building up. And it looks like a lot of the industrial capabilities coming back to Germany and coming back to France.
Well, that'd be a good
thing. It looks like there's a lot
for those populations.
Yeah, so that in the next 2 to 5 years looks pretty good there. No, don't get me wrong. There's British contracts there as well. Not as many British contracts, but there is a few there. Is it enough to plug the hole that Britain has at the moment in their deficit? I don't know. I doubt it. They definitely need something. They need a good, solid leader with a good, solid plan and vision. That's what they need.
All right. Let's let Mr. Lowe cook.
Old mucker who supports Burnley, who I've not only exchanged words with in my boardroom at Southampton, but also in the Burnley boardroom where he's often to be seen, probably pork barreling a free ticket. But anyway, so no.
It's a great expression, pork barreling. That's
I haven't heard that in many years.
right. That's awesome.
Yeah. I think Blair, they had a plan. They undermined our legal system, which I'm happy to talk about. They undermined our constitution, the unwritten constitution that we have. They effectively passed laws like the Human Rights Act, which embeds within it the ECHR. They passed the Equalities Act. That was a sort of brown-eyed piece of legislation. And that comes on top of legislation passed previously, which again I think was not good for the cohesion of our society. But the genesis of the real damage has come from Tony Blair. And since then, we have actually seen immigration, which you mentioned, rising very fast. And unfortunately, then when the coalition government of Clegg and Cameron was in power, they did nothing to change that. And then Cameron had his own majority, which he did nothing to change. And again, I'm happy to talk about my experience in Parliament.
When he says he's happy to talk about it, he really wants Jamie Gold to ask him, like, hey,
yes,
hey, buddy. He's trying to steer this interview in this very specific way, but it's something he wants to talk about, and I think it's a legitimate subject, honestly.
Yes, it is. But I think as we see in the full interview, it already has a set of questions later on. He actually, in fairness, he does kind of address all that as the interview goes on. But yeah, I think he really wants to talk about those issues. I'm kind of getting that hint all right.
Right. Well, and I think it's super important. It's super important that the British people talk about it and come to a solution that's good for the people of Britain, the constituents, the citizens, those who do the work, that pay the taxes, that these politicians have literally just been throwing away, right? The resources are just being extricated, and it's not good. It's not good at all.
No, and that's the problem. Like I went back to him. Immigration is a very important part of any country and economy. But the caveat is, it depends on your economy. If your economy is knowledge-based and heavy skill-based economy, like say for likes of Ireland and looks like the UK and France, most Western countries have very highly skilled industries, from electronic manufacturing to programming to you just name it. Everyone knows what I'm on about. The problem is with a lot of the inward immigration at the moment, say in the likes of Ireland, the UK, and across Europe, is we're getting a lot of unskilled workers, which were great years ago when you had positions for them, say in heavy manufacturing and that kind of work, where they could easily find a job. But now they're landing on your shore with no skills and no ability to get any meaningful work. So of course they're going to be stuck on your welfare system, and they're going to be a drain in your economy because there's no work there genuinely for them.
Well, you were telling me, was it Belgium that said, hey, if you don't assimilate or become a part of this, first of all, you're not getting any of our resources. You don't get the social welfare, you don't get the nothing.
That's there in Denmark. They brought in there. Denmark.
We actually never saw that,
Yeah, and other countries are bringing in similar laws where if you arrive here, you have to work, you have to assimilate, you have to follow all these steps. If not, we're going to put you on a plane and go home.
You cannot have a welfare state and open borders. You can't.
Yes, they don't go hand in hand. They can't. They can't go hand in hand.
Right. You can't be nice to everyone and let them extract all those resources, and then they don't give you anything for those resources.
No, what I'm talking about now, when it comes to genuine refugees who are genuinely fleeing, say, genocide and war zones, yes, I would no problem helping those type of people. But what we're seeing is the other side of immigration. What we're talking about are basic economic migrants.
Right. That's not good for the economy.
That is the big elephant in the room that the UK, Ireland, and basically a lot of the countries around the Western Hemisphere have to figure out is a lot of these guys are not coming here to make a better life, are not coming here to assimilate into your culture.
But they're doing it at the expense of the constituency that already resides there. Right?
Yeah.
And if you come to some place and you refuse to assimilate, like you're not attempting to become a part of that culture, then you're just breaking that culture. At the same time, you're extracting resources. So we're throwing money away, and you're not assimilating, and you're causing all kinds of other issues in the process, right?
Yeah, and not only that, but you're also damaging the health service, for instance, in both the UK and Ireland, are completely overwhelmed at the moment.
Well, your buddy, angry Andrew Branco, was talking about getting folks that fail to assimilate. They just will not do it.
No,
right?
But it's not just assimilation, but they have no problem. Like they come over and they hate your society, but they also want to extract everything they can out of your society at the same time.
Right.
It's
a cancer. It's functionally a cancer.
Yeah.
It needs to be excised. It really does. So, all right, let's get back to it.
Again, I think part of the problem is that these all these changes meant that instead of Parliament being the sovereign body that governs the country, Blair and Cameron hollowed out the MPs, the gene pool of Parliament. And then you've had a sort of series of what I call expenses scandals, where the MPs, who are supposed to be mini gods elected by the people to represent the people, usually well known in their own constituencies, although that was historically the case. What's happened is Parliament's actually been taken over by the staff that work in Parliament. So the Commissioner on Standards, who sits in judgment with an extremely opaque rule book, which needs.
Yeah, it's like the staffers in the House of Representatives and the Senate for the United States, right? They're all from the party, so they're all put in those positions, and they garner a ton of power. It doesn't particularly matter who the representative or senator is. Those people who are in those positions are the ones that are controlling all the legislation that gets written. Like the staffers are the one that put that forward for the senator or the House rep, right? It seems like the same thing's going on from the back bench to the front bench, and all the staffers in that civil service section.
Well, it's exactly the same over here. Exactly the same in Ireland. Like the civil service has so much power, and I would argue the civil service in Ireland has more power than any elected TD. Easily, if I know quite a few civil servants, and I can guarantee I get things done faster for myself by just contacting my buddy who works in civil service than it'll ever get done contacting my local TD.
Right, I've had to talk to staffers for even state representatives and senators. And the assembly person can't get a thing done, but I talk to the staffer. The staffer's like, "Oh yeah, here you go," right? Like that's like that isn't really how that's supposed. Because that staffer isn't the person that got elected to the position to do the thing. And I understand they're in support of, and there's a lot of constituents to deal with, but it seems like their power has been functionally stripped and handed to the bureaucrat that sits behind, that's run by whatever party is in charge of that office, right?
Yeah, and the civil service is absolutely crazy. The amount of power they actually have, and the amount some of them get paid is crazy as well. I'm just thinking of some of the figures that came out there recently about some of our civil servants.
Like school boards in the United States.
Yeah, that shocked me as well. But the civil servants are just, as you said, just run the show in a lot of cases.
Yeah, well, it's a bureaucracy, and the bureaucracy is going to generate more power for itself. It's how bureaucracies function.
Oh, yeah. And it also operates the buddy system as well.
Nepotism come on, bud.
Oh no, God. Oh no.
I got a position of power, and I'm not going to hire all my friends to do my stuff for me. Nah, come on.
That never happened. That never happens in a democracy.
All right, let's let Rupert talk.
To be radically overhauled. You've got, all of the staff and all the rules are designed to stop MPs being functional. And indeed, the more you do as an MP, and I find this myself because I have been doing quite a lot over the last, whatever it is, 15 months, because I'm not in this to do anything other than change the way we're governed. I give my parliamentary salary to charity. I'm not in it for the money. I don't need the money. I actually, it's cost me money, because we can talk about reform and the legal fees, and we're not finished with those yet. So I think Parliament's been undermined by, and really the parliamentary process is a joke now. It's actually the civil service and the permanent secretaries who run Britain, and they're not elected.
Yeah, that permanent secretary thing is a big problem, right? When you have unelected officials that do things and they can't be removed from the position, they can just continue to garner power in the system, right?
Yeah, but every democracy has unelected officials like that. No matter, if you look at any democracy all across, say take the G7 for instance, they're going to have a lot of positions that are unelected. Very powerful positions.
Right. Well, in the United States, it's called the Plum Book. All those heads of departments are in a book called the Plum Book, and those positions are appointed like the head of this or that, but the chief deputy and some of those positions in there are not. So they get to stay there for a long, long time, right? So the president appoints all of those 400 plus positions, but the chief deputy or whatever, and some right below them, they get to those positions that are almost the top, super powerful, and they're there for a very long time, right? Getting that top job is almost a bad idea, because although on paper you wield more power, you still have to pay homage to the person who is the chief deputy or in charge of this or that within the organization that holds more power than you just based on longevity, right? If I get in 10 days or even 10 months, I'm not going to have as much juice in the system as somebody who's been there for 10, 15, 20 years. Right?
Oh yeah, but I've seen even I wouldn't say the corruption, but I've seen it myself in the civil service here in Ireland, for instance.
Right. Well, the United States is trying to handle some of that by removing some of the Chevron doctrine stuff. You guys can look up Chevron doctrine, but what happens is Congress will pass a law, and Chevron doctrine says that a 3-letter agency can then expand on that and make regulations, because the Supreme Court said that they're as subject matter experts, they can do that.
Yeah.
And the United States is trying to pull back on that.
Right? Yeah, but the bureaucracy will always try to defend itself, if you know what I mean. Especially a lot of the entrenched
for sure.
bureaucracy. They'll always kind of defend themselves. They'll always hang in there. They're like barnacles. Yeah, barnacles I'm trying to use.
Yeah, they really are. All right, let's let Rupert do some more work.
And a lot of them are extremely woke. They are questionable people in terms of both their morals, in terms of their outlook, and certainly now in terms of the fetters on them, which are supposed to be put in place by the front bench. And our front bench now has virtually nobody who has any experience of running anything. So, as you know, if people aren't held to account, then ultimately they're not elected. They outlive most parliaments. And effectively, therefore, it's them that's governing the country, and it's them that's letting the British people down. Parliament's just a charade. I mean, Parliament is it's a show for the people. It shouldn't be. And really what has to happen now is the MPs have to stand up for themselves and start to actually take back the power that the Constitution is supposed to vest in Parliament. I mean, again, just to give you an example, if Parliament passes a law, but that law is trumped by a global law, like in the case of the ECHR, then our laws aren't any more effective. So therefore, law we pass in Parliament isn't always going to be effective in this country. So we've been undermined by, I think, the people now who, if you like, the administrative structure around the MPs has taken over. That wasn't helped by the expenses scandal, which again, we won't go into that, but I think there were understandable reasons as to why MPs thought it was okay. But in the end, it worked against them and it neutered Parliament. So I think, again, the British people who vote need to open their eyes to the fact that Parliament is just a sort of media plaything to entertain them.
You know,
and that's pretty much where it's gotten to, right? So all those administrative positions and all of those undersecretaries that are appointed that fall up under the front bench, they have a ton of power. And as long as your party is still in power, and even when your party is out of power, a lot of those positions don't come out because you need them to wield their power to get your thing done, whatever your thing is. Right. And there's
even though it's crazy. It's absolutely. I see
people you don't even know who they are, and they're running your country. Right.
Yeah.
It's like a shadow government that's underneath the government. It's really, really not a healthy thing, right?
Like, it's absolutely crazy is how much power the civil service has. Even so much power, I am thinking of my own country at the moment. The civil service have so much power, even in Ireland, that they can undermine the TD, no problem.
Oh yeah,
they can cut them off. Yeah.
Right.
Even if they're even if they are a minister, they can cut them off at the knees if they choose to. And then most of the ministers in Ireland know that. That's why they will never step on the civil servants' toes too much.
Right, and when you have to step around things like that, it makes rule ineffectual 100%.
Oh, it makes policies nearly impossible to get done half the time.
I think that's what's happened, and we've become lazy. We've become self-indulgent. We have lost our Protestant ethic. We no longer demand the kind of exactitude that people used to in the past. It's happened before. So I mean, you probably know that the Quakers didn't like what was happening, so they sort of broke away and almost only did business with each other and built the most fantastic businesses founded on honesty, on hard work, on enterprise.
I had an interesting conversation about that with Ann Coulter, the American politician and writer and thing, and she was talking about Christianity and how it tends to create a culture of hard working and all those kinds of things. And she said Mexican immigration is terrible. She tried to argue it was worse than Islamic immigration to the UK. And I was going, well, hang on. But at least it's Christian. And she said, no, well, that's Catholic. And I thought that was really interesting. Maybe we could look at some of the countries. I mean, because Protestantism we found in sort of Germany and Britain, these are countries that have done really well. So there does seem to be something in that.
Well, I think the key, Andrew, is again, and Emily called me racist. I'm not remotely a racist. I have no problem with targeted immigration. And I don't mind where those people come from, as long as they bring with them skills that are going to contribute to our society and they respect what Britain is, what Britain historically has been.
How do you target
what
that?
we are now? I mean, so they have to respect us, and what we haven't got is integration. So a lot of these people who've come here in huge numbers are low skilled. They haven't integrated. They've been abusing the postal vote, which is something I think needs to be radically changed very quickly. And I don't think they respect our culture. In fact,
that's a fact. They don't respect the culture. We've talked about it a lot of times before. They're failing to assimilate. They're extracting resources. They're not contributing. Right.
And as I was saying earlier, I do agree with him. There has to be targeted immigration into your country. They have to come with skills that you need genuinely in your country. Doctors, nurses, engineers, tradesmen, people with skills that will contribute to your society. And he's right. At the moment, all our countries are being overrun with unskilled workers, which was great, say, up to 30 years ago, it was brilliant when there was manufacturing, a lot of manufacturing jobs. But obviously, they've moved on to more into the Asian market and so on, where it's cheap to manufacture goods. As I was saying earlier, we've moved more into the knowledge economy, into more electronics, more detailed work is the best word to describe.
But isn't there a problem inherent to that, in that if you take those people who are engineers and doctors and all those things, don't those countries they come from also need those resources, those human resources to do those things? And if we take them in G20 countries, aren't we making those countries poorer for taking their skilled talent?
Yes and no. That always has been the argument. But a lot of the doctors and engineers that have immigrated into Ireland, that I personally know from different countries, they said they build a life here, they integrate, some of them are even into local J clubs and so on. But they also send money back home to make their families' lives better back home. They build up, they don't forget, they suddenly don't say leave India and forget about where they came from India.
Right.
They do send money home.
Resources. That's not a doctor. That's not an engineer. That's not a functional.
But let me finish. Let me finish. What I was saying is, what they normally do is they send money home, so their brothers, sisters, nephews, nieces can also get a high education, and a lot of those people actually genuinely stay back in India as doctors and engineers. So the money they're getting here benefits both sides of the equation.
So they're helping in a G20 country, and they're also helping at home to get the education. Okay, well, I can buy that.
Yes,
I can buy that.
Yep.
Seems well.
No, I've seen it happen personally. I've seen it happen with a lot of Indian families that I personally know, that they have both sides of the equation, and which is fantastic, because when we immigrated abroad from Ireland, we worked, say, the likes of the United States, UK, we worked all over the world, and we sent money back home, our own families, and helped them get educated and build up, either to immigrate or stay where they were. So we've had a tradition of that too in Ireland. But what he's talking about there is unskilled workers.
Right. Oh no, for sure,
That's the problem. That's the problem.
Sure. And that's bad on both sides of that. So here we go.
Yeah.
No, they don't respect our culture. So for me, those people are not people we should be bringing in and damaging the fabric of our country. And today we had a petition which we started at 9:15 this morning to effectively restore Britain, which is my new political movement, which is designed to unify. With the help of my members, we actually had our first direct democracy vote on detaining and deporting illegal migrants, basically offshore. So they don't actually come here; they're processed offshore. And we need to find somewhere to do that. Lots of places. I think one thing that upset Emily was I suggested a Scottish or an English island where we put up a tented camp and we give them food, sufficient food until we process them, and or they've asked to go home. But
why does that sounds reasonable to me? You don't actually get to put your feet on English soil.
Well, technically it's English soil when it's one of their islands, of course, but I do understand where he's come from to come up with a solution to make it, if you do arrive here, this is a tented camp you're going to go to. So there's
don't just apply for social welfare and get it right now.
No. When I opposite, that's one thing that actually always kind of stuck in my craw, especially in Ireland. Is a person can rock over into Dublin Airport, and next minute you know they're being escorted to the local social welfare office, and they're being escorted to help them fill out the forms. They're being escorted to help out and get their medical card by the state, by the way. And I'm sitting there going, if I just say arrived in New York City with no documentation, would I get the same response, I wonder? No.
It would be very different.
Very different, yeah.
Yes.
I was thinking that most G7, by the way, most G7 countries would be pretty different.
And it's not because you're Irish. There's another thing that we're not going to say is the reason that you wouldn't get the assist. But there's a reason you would not get the assist.
Yeah.
Right?
It always took my graw, because I know an awful lot of elderly people who are struggling at the moment, in Ireland especially, just to get doctor's appointments.
Right, and they're not getting escorted to the office to fill out the paperwork appropriately to go to the doctor's. They're not getting any of that. They're not getting the housing. They're not getting the anything. Right?
No.
So,
and these are a lot of these countries a lot of these people I know personally have spent nearly 50, 60 years working hard, and the way they're treated at the moment compared to a lot of people coming in is like night and day. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Very disappointing.
For sure. All right. Let's let them get back to work.
Settling them in hotels. I mean, so our petition started at 9:15. We had over 100,000 votes by 4 o'clock this afternoon, 4:45 this afternoon. So ultimately, I think as I came into your studio, I think we were hitting 109 or 110,000. So that was only started at 9:15 this morning. So that forces a debate in Westminster Hall. I asked for a debate in the House last Thursday, where the leader of the House reluctantly said if I asked for it, I might get it, even if he thought that what I suggested was abhorrent. I don't know about you, but why is it abhorrent to discuss something which is at the top of everyone's agenda, which is arguably damaging our interests?
Yeah, what they get wrong is they think everything is sort of a Nazi thing in their minds, isn't it? And they forget that Jews actually tried to flee Germany and they brought them back in. What you're suggesting is the opposite. They don't come in. If I try and go off to some country that I don't have permission to live in, well, they're going to kick me out. I think that's quite a usual thing.
Britain, as you know, has always been a very tolerant nation. In fact,
yes and yes. This is functional. Like, I don't know why it's a problem. Let's talk about a thing. You can't talk about that. We can't manipulate the concept, but we can't talk about it, and we don't get to both have our own truth in a separate corner if the society's fabric is being damaged. Like, that's not acceptable.
I even see it in the Dáil in Ireland, and I see the likes of Ken O'Flynn and Independent Ireland try to bring up questions in the Dáil with different policies when it comes around immigration, and they're nearly shouted down in the Dáil. I mean, no one wants to discuss it.
Right? Was it your Taoiseach or your Taoiseach said something really crazy about sovereignty? What?
Yeah. And by the way, I'm talking about the likes of Sinn Féin as well when I'm talking about them, not Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil in particular. I remember one time Ken O'Flynn tried to bring up immigration, and he was shouted down by Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael. The Labour guys were kind of just there. Sinn Féin just absolutely lost their mind because they've flip-flopped on immigration so many times. It's crazy. Which, by the way, if anyone doesn't know Irish history, they're supposed to be the main Republican Party. But anyway, they've changed their colours in the last couple of years.
A lot. All right, here we go.
Oh, big time.
You know, whereas Europe used to persecute the Huguenots and persecute the Jews, and on the whole, Britain allowed people to come here. The Huguenots made a huge contribution, as did a lot of Jewish people. They came here. They're very highly skilled. They're very intelligent. And they were welcome. They contributed, and I think a lot of them came to love the country more almost than some of the indigenous English who can sometimes take their country for granted.
Certainly the left.
But this current wave, I think, is incredibly damaging. And again, this is one of the things that the establishment has to admit they got wrong. And that's Blair, that's Cameron, particularly Boris.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that wasn't illegal. That was legal immigration.
Well, that's what I want to say, because people, I've started saying recently, I think that the illegal stop the boats and all that, I know it's a catchy phrase and it's very important. It is.
Right, but that's only about 20% of the immigration.
Yeah.
Most of it's by plane from a previous country that they could have stayed in.
Yes.
Right? And then when you go to
Simple.
ship them back,
Yeah.
that country's like, nope, we're not going to take them. You're like, they came from your country. They didn't just land on my island accidentally. They got on a plane in your country. You take them, and they're like, oh, nope, sorry. Hey, you're not in the EU anymore. It's like, can't send them anywhere. And then Ireland gets the ass into that deal because they just go to Northern Ireland and
I think hop the ball across, yeah.
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 It's crazy.
You're getting a lot of bad filtering mechanisms. So Ireland's ending up with the worst of the worst on the back end. They just really are. And it's
what we're ended up with is just a bunch of people sitting on the dole doing little or nothing to benefit.
oh yeah.
Anything.
And the UK is even like putting out things that say, hey, you should go to Ireland because you'll get more resources. And they're like, oh yeah, we will.
Yeah. Officially, unofficially, they're doing it. Is the best word to describe
But
that
the
one.
problem is the UK can't send them back to the EU country that they previously came from. They just can't. Because that all those countries are like, nope, we're not going to take them. So then Ireland gets stuck with the bill.
Yeah, we're getting stuck with them. The sad thing is, I think everyone, not just England or Ireland, I think a lot of the G20 and even most of the Western developed countries have to sit down and really hammer out some kind of deal to deal with this influx across all our countries.
Right. Well, we have the problem where they tear up their passports, and you can't get them back. Like, where the hell are you from? I don't know.
It's not too hard. You just figure out what language they speak and to send them back to that country that speaks that language. It's not rocket science.
No, I understand.
If they speak Somalian, guess where they're from? Right. Somalia.
But the left
it's not hard to figure it out.
No, I get that, but the left and the right have an issue with that, right? So the left says, well, we have to be nice and we have to give them a chance, and the right's like, kick them back immediately, like gone, right? So it's hard to talk in that space when they're mutually exclusive, right?
And I understand, as I've always said, I understand both sides of that coin in some ways. But there has to come a point where you have to sit down and smell the coffee. Your country it has so much GDP to go around for all the citizens.
Right. 100%. They got to go back.
You cannot have hundreds of thousands of people come into your country, drawing down money out of that system without it having a massive knock-on effect to your society.
Right, and Rupert's correct. It's the legal migration that's been almost, or is in fact, worse.
Yes.
Right? Because the obstacles were taken out of the process, which is why Denmark and a lot of other countries, Poland and the EU, are like, no, we're just not doing it. Absolutely not. So
a lot of countries all across Europe have very strong immigration policies in some ways. Germany now, you can see now, is cracking down. A lot, just kind of a sweep all across Europe. Everyone's strengthening their borders now. But it's a bit late, I would say, in a lot of cases. I would say it's a bit late. Now they have to deal with the hundreds of thousands they already have in their country. And that's when the rubber meets the road. How are they going to do that?
Yeah, the barn's on fire. Don't send the horse back in, right? But we got to do something. Yeah. Something's got to be done. Right? So, all right, here we go.
Well, I don't want people to say
illegal means illegal.
Yeah.
If you come here illegally,
then
if you or I break the law, what happens to us?
No, we go to get citizen. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I still think, though, it's a slight distraction from the legal immigration, which is insane, the numbers.
Well, I think there are 3 or 4 things. The first thing is the illegal, what I call that they call them asylum seekers. They're actually not. They're economic migrants. So.
Economic migrants, he's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they should be dealt with, first of all. Those people living here illegally, of which there are a lot, need to be dealt with. The foreign criminals, which are about 10,500 in our prisons, need to be deported.
Mm-hmm.
as I've always said, and again this upset Emily, I said the families of the rape gang perpetrators who are not English nationals, they should be deported as well. So not just the perpetrator, but anyone who knew about it. These people should.
Yeah, by collaboration, they're right. They need to go. Right. If you prop that up, that is a horrific thing to do to anybody. And then if your family is complicit, then gotta go. See ya.
Yeah. You broke the moral contract of our country.
Yeah, you're morally and ethically bankrupt, and we shouldn't accept that as a people. 100%.
Over perpetrators of this kind of violence. And so, and then we get to the first thing is deal with the illegals, and then you're quite right. There's been vast amounts of legal migration, but then you have to hold the Home Office to account for that, because the Home Office, their default position is to let people into the country. And you have to ask yourself why, because there are statistics proving that a lot of these low skill people will end up being a cost to the British taxpayer. Now,
about $1 million per, up to $1 million US dollars, 900,000 pounds. It's
pounds,
made it.
Now, question: what is our government elected to do? In my simplistic and probably unintelligent view of life, they're elected to represent the interests of the British voter, the British taxpayer, and British society.
The will of the people, 100%.
Yeah.
They're not elected to carry out sort of global welfare or indulge their passion for some sort of woke concept that they think they should be pursuing. No, they're servants of the people, and they should be serving the interests of people who have helped build this country up, whose families, whose forebears, everybody has played a part in making Britain what it is.
That's super important, right? Your people want a thing, and we've talked about it before, since after the Prime Minister Thatcher, it seems that it has gone functionally downhill with the immigration thing. Every election is about, hey, we don't want more people here.
There wasn't as much immigration during Margaret Thatcher's time across the world. It's the best way to describe it.
Right.
There wasn't. When
Blair got in, there was an issue, right? And he said, well, we'll just let more people in. And then there wasn't a firm policy through a bunch of different cabinets. This seemed to have gotten worse and worse and worse, right?
Yeah, but you have to remember as well, the world has gotten a lot more unstable since when it's come to law for a lot of these countries. A lot of these countries have collapsed. In the last 30 plus years, there's been how many small border wars across the world? And I understand the world, and I understand a lot of these people, why they're fleeing. But unfortunately, there's no point in them coming here if they do not have some form of skills. We can't be the lifeboat. All the G20, we can't be the lifeboat for the world.
No,
we just don't have we just don't have the financial means. We have to come down and say that. We do not have the financial means to support.
You can no longer extract the resources. California, Minnesota, and a few other states in the United States are realizing that as well. And along with lots of corruption that goes with that, it's not the best at all.
Yeah, even in Ireland, during all our Taoiseachs, it's only the last, I would say, it started back in 2005. We really shot during the Celtic Tiger times. We saw a lot of immigration into Ireland. And now it's just in the last 2 to 3 years, it's just absolutely exploded. It's unbelievable. I've never seen immigration to my country like it in all my time.
They are going to have to put a lid on that for sure.
Oh, definitely.
There's going to be a split in the vote. And even if Reform are a little bit too centristy at the moment.
But that's why I set up Restore, because I Restore Britain is about unifying. And I really think the power of a united English/British people is what's going to change the way we're governed. It's and look, I talked to Ben, I get on very well with Ben. We were in the European Parliament together. He chose not to come east with me. I tried to persuade him to come to Suffolk Coastal, where he would have won Theresa Coffey's seat. And he would have been a very, very good MP. And this is the essence. Although Parliament is a bit of a farce, it gives you the power that it gives you credibility. And that's what Ben has been lacking, I think, recently. As you know, he's now got Tommy Robinson, Elon Musk, and we had the big march which he was at.
Yeah.
And my heart was with that march. I'm with the people. You know, a lot of the people who work for us went on that march. They're real people. These are not people who are trying to destabilize this country. So we've got to find a way of uniting. But that means uniting everybody. It doesn't just...
So uniting without destabilizing would be the best possible outcome, right? An organically generated process where the constituency says, hey, politicians, here's what we need, want, and desire. We've shown you in the polls. Now we're going to show you on the streets, right?
Yes. And that's the most important, is do it peacefully. There's a way of doing it with dignity and respect. I think that's what he's trying to say. And I see, keeps pointing out, this isn't just normal British people want change. And no one wants to listen to him for whatever reason. And it's the same in Ireland. It's just normal working class people just want change. We want to be able to use our health system without waiting 2 to 3 years now for appointments.
Right, and they're just not given the time of day.
No.
They got their heads down, they're working, they got their nose to the grindstone, they're doing everything they can. They don't have time with both parents working, with kids, and you trust the people to represent you, but now it looks like you can't trust them to do the thing they've been elected to do. Hey, use my voice to do the thing on the council, as a TD, as whatever, right? As an assemblyman, as a House of Reps, a representative, senator, whatever. Like, I elected you to do the thing, and you're not doing it. In fact,
that is the problem with an awful lot of people all across the European Union and all across, as I keep saying, all across the Western world at the moment. The higher up people do not want to listen to the normal guy in the street anymore.
Well, I think a lot of that's to do with the civil services has stuck their bat in the craw, and they're just not letting go.
No, right? I wouldn't. The civil service will always do what civil service does. I'm talking about the normal politicians that we elect. They seem to be standing there, just pretending everything's rosy in the garden.
Well, the thing is they have an agenda that has nothing to do with what their constituency wants. They've gotten to get the power to enact or wield the power in the way they want, as opposed to being a servant of the people. That is what you are. You represent those people, and what they want is what you should be representing. As uncomfortable as it might be for you personally, if they want the thing, do the thing. Right? That's what you're elected for.
And not just that, but what he said earlier was a fantastic point. Is if me, or as he was saying there, the interviewer, Andrew, if him or Andrew broke the law, they'd be arrested straight away.
Immediately, right.
And if I rock over to a country illegal with no passport and no visa, I'll be arrested straight away. End of story. I'll be put on the next flight back home, and that'll be it. I'll be thrown out, or I'll be arrested, do a bit of time, then sent home. Yep. But that's been the process. And that should be always the process.
Or jailed forever, or killed, or whatever. Yeah.
Like, no matter what sob story. Like, a lot of these guys who come over here on this whole, protected asylum seekers and all this, a lot of them are just pulling the mick. It's the best way to describe it. Especially when you come to the international protection order.
They're bullshitting. That's what they're doing.
Like, don't get me wrong. I can genuinely. Don't get me wrong. Some of them are genuine cases, fleeing persecution and so on. That I'm not talking about those people, but we all know a lot of them are pulling the mick. We do. We all know it. The figures are there to prove that we know that 1 in 10 are truthful and the other 9 aren't.
Right.
That's the latest figures come out of my own country.
Horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So for every 1,000, you have 900 plus who are just there to extract resources.
Yeah, just lying through the deal.
Age men, and they're in your country, and they're walking around town in the middle of the day while your citizens are off at work. Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah. No.
All right, let's get this thing shut down.
It's me uniting a few factions. We've got to unite the entire British population, and we've got to encourage them to stand up for common sense, which is what I think they're ready to do. We have to then, you're quite right, give them a platform which, when they elect it, is going to deliver for them and not for the people they elect. So that's the key, as I see it now. So restore. There are many ways restore can go. So the more people who sign up, the more power we get. You saw today. I mean, we literally filled that petition in whatever it was, 5.5, 6 hours, 6.5 hours, whatever it was. I mean, nothing. Even shorter than the Lucy Connolly petition we did.
So what they do is they're forcing a question onto the floor, and that means that it will be addressed. So if he continues to push this, there's not going to be any rhetoric that's going to stop the discussion. And they can scream and yell and be real unhappy. But if that petition gets signed, that question gets to the floor of Parliament, it will get discussed.
Yes, right? But if it's anything like Dáil Éireann, the question can be asked, but the other side doesn't have to answer. And that's, I think, what a lot of people don't understand is, even if you get the votes, you get the petition signed and get it onto the floor of the Dáil Éireann or the House of Commons or so on, the government doesn't have to answer.
No, they don't.
Ask them the question. They have to stand up. I'm not willing to answer it. Sit back down. That's it.
Right, but if every day the question keeps coming up, eventually the other side's going to have to.
But as you know, it has to be put onto the docket. It has to be asked. So even if you say in this case, I know it took them a couple of weeks to get to Parliament, because you know the way the calendar works. So you got the question asked, they refused to answer, they sat back down. Same with Dáil Éireann.
Right.
Even if you get 100,000 signatures to ask the question on Dáil Éireann, you can stand up, they can ask a question, and they can sit back down.
How bad
That's
do
it.
the Tories look if a question comes up and every day they're like, no. 100,000 people who are British constituents want the question answered. They're just going to end up looking really bad.
I'm going to correct you there. Yeah, it's actually Labour in government at the moment over there. But
smells the same
Labour
over here, bro.
Yeah, but at the moment, Starmer's government is not going to answer any questions. They're trying to answer questions. I know they brought in new immigration laws as such. Are they enforcing the kind of are as such? They brought in very good immigration laws, which is surprising, but they don't have the heart to do it.
Right, we
they don't have the neck to do it.
We covered that.
Yeah, they don't have the neck to do it.
So.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to give him just one more minute, and then we will get this thing put to bed.
So we're starting to get the power to change things, and I think, you know, with my speeches on mass deportations, my speeches on the rape gangs, I have moved the Overton window in Parliament as much as I possibly can as an MP. I mean, one lone independent MP who sometimes has to sit on his backside for up to 3 or 4 hours to get a question, because I'm treated like a grunt. You know, I don't have a party. I'm not either the government or the formal opposition, or even Ed Davies' joke of a Lib Dem party. You know, not even the Greens, or I'm not even, you know, the
He is the ultimate backbencher right now behind Nigel, right?
Yeah. And I have to say one thing. He has some set on him. It takes a lot of neck to set up your own party, get your name out there, to actually stand up for your own country. It takes a lot of neck. I have to say that much about him.
Yeah, I'm like, that's good on you, bud. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I hope it works out
Absolutely.
well for him. I really do. And I hope he gives the British constituency what they need, want, desire, and help fix things.
As I was saying earlier, I think he'll definitely get a good few people elected. I can see this.
You still think it's going to split the vote, though, right?
I think it'll split the vote. And what will it split Nigel's vote, or will it split Labour and what's left of the Tories' vote? That is the question. Would he take seats away from Nigel's party Reform? He probably might.
The problem is that Nigel's going to want to be the prettiest princess at the ball, and I don't think he's going to want to come up under Rupert Lowe at all. That just doesn't feel like it's a thing.
Yeah, even if the next election, would they go into coalition together is always going to be the question. Would they?
Nigel Farage doesn't want to hand the baton to Rupert Lowe. Like, that's not happening.
Yeah. I don't think neither one wants to be the small.
What they don't understand is they're both pretty princesses, and they just need to put their shit aside. And if they really want what's good for Britain, they'll get together and do it.
I think genuinely, they will come together in the end. I think after the next election, they'll sit down, look at the numbers, and say, "Can we form a coalition to make a government?" They probably will, if just judging by some of the recent polls.
Oh yeah, it's looking pretty good.
They could form a government together and maybe bring in a couple of other independents and so on. They could form a really solid government.
I would hope so.
But as I say, you don't know what way it's going to go on election day. It can go anywhere. Yeah.
All right. You got anything else for the people there, Patrick?
No, that's it.
All right. For Patrick McCallum, I am Alex Johansson. Like, bring the bell, subscribe, help us beat the algorithm. We are out.